Okay. So we're finding the GCF of the first one. Find the GCF of 14x to the 10th, y to the 8th, and 15x to the 6th, y to the 9th. This looks familiar. I feel like we did this yesterday. But either way, I need to do a factor tree for 14. 14 is the same thing as 2 times 7, and 2 and 7 are both prime numbers. I am not going to list all of my x's and y's out. I don't want to do that. I don't have the time to do that. That takes forever. There's an easier way, so I'm going to do it that way. I just needed to figure out what 14's numbers were, and now I need to figure out what 15's are. 15 is 3 times 5. 3 times 5, and then we have x to the 6th power, y to the 9th power. So what I notice is we have no numbers in common. We don't have any numbers that there's pairs of, so we're not going to have any numbers in our GCF. What I do know is that when I'm trying to do this, instead of listing it all out, I want to look for the smaller exponent with the 6. So I have an exponent that says x to the 10th, and then I have one that says x to the 6th. The 6th is smaller. That's the most x's I'm allowed to take out. We did do this problem yesterday. And I look at my y's. I have y to the 8th and I have y to the 9th. Whichever one has the smaller exponent, that's as many as I'm allowed to take out. So y to the 8th. So your GCF for this first one is x to the 6th, y to the 8th. The next one, factor out the GCF from the following polynomial. So I might list this one out. 2a squared times b would be, or 10. 2 times 5 times a times b is the first one. 12 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 3. You have 1a and you have 2 b's. What they have in common is a 2, an a, and a b. So the GCF is 2ab. What I need to do to finish this problem is divide the numbers that I have by 2ab. And I kind of wrote over those. So now, if you have 10a squared b, what is 10 divided by 2? What is a to the second minus a to the first? And you wouldn't have any b's because you'd have 1 minus 1, which is 0. Now I'm going to take 12 divided by 2. It's a positive 6, so that's where the plus sign comes from. A minus a is going to go away. B squared minus b is just going to leave me with a b. So when you factor it out, you have this 2ab and then in parentheses 5a plus 6b. Easy way to tell if you did it correctly is if you wanted to, you could multiply this back out and you should get what you started with. Okay. Trinomials are when they're written in ax squared plus bx plus c. A trinomial means there are 3 terms. Okay. Today we're going to learn how to factor when your first number is a 1. So it does, like you see how this one up here, the first number is a 14, or this one right here, the first number is a 10. The first number today has to be 1 or it's not going to work the way we're doing it. So we have the binomial x plus 2, and we're multiplying it times x plus 3. It says multiply the binomials together. Okay, well, what is x times x? So this is the FOIL method. I do the first two, the first one on this one, the first one on this one, and I multiply. O stands for outside. I'm going to take the outside of this one times the outside of this one. So what's x times 3? So 3x. I stands for inside. I'm going to take the 2 inside and multiply them. 2 times x is 2x. And L stands for the last 2. I'm going to take the last one of this one and the last one of this one and multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. We are able to take 3x plus 2x. That equals what? 5x. Thank you. So we multiplied those two together. They actually gave us the answer. I just wanted you to see where it came from. Okay. What time is it? The product of the two terms of the binomials is equal to, and I'm going to say the product of the, I want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so this first blank is second. You can kind of see this. I'm going to zoom in. So here's what you're going to fill in. The product of the second term of the binomial is equal to the last term of the trinomial. First blank is second. Second blank is last. Number two, the sum of the second term of the binomial equals the coefficient of the second term of the trinomial. This is kind of confusing. We're going to break this down really quick. So if you take 2 times 3, you get 6. That's where the 6 comes from. That's what the first thing's talking about. If you take 3x squared plus 2x squared, you get 5x squared. That's what the second one's talking about. We're going to mainly focus on doing the problems. You're going to understand more when you actually see a problem done. So we're going to go down to example 2. We have to do the X factor method, or you can do the puzzle method, whichever way you like. But the last term is 6, goes in the top of your box. We want two things that multiply to give me 6, and then the bottom number in your little X is this 5 right here. The last term tells you your first or your top number, and the middle term tells you your bottom number. So let's start thinking about two things that multiply to give me 6, but add to give me 5. That's okay. 2 and 3. Okay, this is where we use the X factor method. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the first term. The first term was x squared. You just got these two numbers, 2 and 3. Those are the answers to the X factor method. We're going to break 5x squared into 2x, or not 5x squared, 5x into 2x plus 3x. And then you'll write your last term at the very end. So what we did was we changed 5x to 2x plus 3x. It means the same thing, but then we'll be able to factor something out. I'm wondering how far they're wanting us to do these. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do is those two middle numbers that you got, they tell you your two factors. So we don't even, you're going to start with x. Is this a positive 2 or a negative 2? We'll put plus 2. Is this a positive 3 or a negative 3? So you'll say x plus 3. Those two numbers that you came up with tell you how to factor out what you just did. We're going to do another one. It's going to make more sense really quick. So I know we don't have that much time, but we're going to do the X factor method for the one right beside it. The last term tells you your top number in your box. It's a positive 28, so I'm going to put a 28 at the top of my box, or my X. The middle term right here is 11. It's a positive 11. That's going to be the bottom number of my X. We're looking for something that multiplies to give me 28, but adds to give me 11. What'd you say? Okay, these two numbers that you just came up with, 4 and 7, these are the answers to how we would factor. You're going to always start with x. If it's a positive 4, you would say plus 4. If it was a negative 4, you'd say minus 4. Then you're going to have another x. If it's a positive 7, you're going to say plus 7. If it's a negative 7, you're going to say minus 7. And this is the factored form of this trinomial. If you wanted to, you could spend a bunch of time taking x times x, taking x times 7, taking 4 times x, and taking 4 times 7. We're going to do one more. We have a negative down here. Here's my x. The very end number, if it's positive, you're going to write a positive number. If it's negative, you're going to write a negative number. It's positive 18, so the top number in my x is 18. The middle term tells you your bottom number in your x. This is a negative 11, so I have to put a negative 11 at the bottom. We need two things to multiply to give me 18 and add to give me negative 11. Okay, negative 9 times negative 2, that gives me positive 18 when you multiply. Negative 9 plus negative 2 gives me negative 11. To do the factored form, you always start with an x. If it's a minus 9 or a negative 9, you're going to put minus 9. Then you do another x. If it's a negative 2, you're going to put minus 2, not plus 2, because those are negative numbers. And this is the factored form of that trinomial. Okay, you guys can put your notes away. Do not forget that 1 through 12 will be graded tomorrow from what we did yesterday. So make sure that gets finished tonight.